Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So for all you Audie fans, my little bad boy is asleep in the bedroom because he has a boo-boo on his little paw. Now, it's not a serious boo-boo. He let me look at it so I could see, but it's a boo-boo nonetheless, and he is milking this for all it is worth. He goes into the bedroom, and every now and then he'll start crying so that I will go in and I will acknowledge that he has a boo-boo on his little paw, and then he will lick it raw, even though I try to stop him. But like I say, he's let me look at it, but he won't let me touch it yet. So we're going to have to see how this works out. I've given him, theoretically, until Monday for this thing to start looking like it's healing. And at that point, if it doesn't show any signs of improvement, I will take him to the vet. But right now, this is too minor a little injury for me to justify pulling the vet away from her family on a holiday weekend simply because my cat is spoiled and expects to be pitied. So it's really nothing to worry about because, frankly, my bad boy is very, very aggressive. So this is not the first injury he has ever suffered. It's just that he knows that when he's got a boo-boo, if he plays poor, pathetic little cat, I will coddle him. And I think that's what he's looking for. Just, pet the poor kitty, look at the boo-boo paw. So we'll have to see. But right now, he's in the bedroom, sleeping it off, and before too long, he will start wailing for me to go in and notice his injured paw and feel sorry for him. All right, we are going to take a quick look at the intro, and when we come back, we'll get right into it. So, I am in the midst of decluttering, and I was going to say decluttering again, but that's not really what goes on for me. It's not like I am decluttering and the process stops and I start it again. No, it's ongoing. I am always decluttering. Sometimes I am doing it a little more actively and aggressively. That would be where I'm at right now. And other times I am just kind of looking around, saying to myself, gee, it would be nice if you decluttered this place. But it's always there. And I think for most of us, that's the way it works. We are not like decluttering every now and then. It's a process that is going on all the time. Sometimes it's just more active than others because we are human beings. We have lives. Things come into our homes, things go out of our homes. That happens for most of us on a pretty regular basis. So we have to recognize that it's normal. Our environment evolves, even if it just evolves in very small ways. Like, let's get a new tablecloth. Well, the new tablecloth comes in. What about the old tablecloth? Is the old tablecloth going out, or is it staying around just in case? Which, by the way, is the first item on my decluttering strategies list. Now, the list, and for those of you who have followed the channel for a while, you've probably seen me go through this list before. It's not actually a template for decluttering. Go into this room, start with this, start with that. That's something entirely different. This is the mindset you need to bring to any decluttering process. The place that you need to move your head into so that you will better be able to do this with less pain, with less emotional difficulty, because it can be very hard to get rid of your stuff. Anybody remember George Carlin? Yeah. We can be very attached to our stuff, but our stuff isn't always working for us. And when it stops working, we need to move it away, because the biggest problem for many, and I dare say even most of us, is we have stuff that maybe worked for us at some point in the past, but isn't working for us now. But for a wide variety of reasons, we just can't seem to part with it. So I thought we would take another look at this list, because frankly, I really, really need to. I need my head back in that declutter mode space. So let's start off, and this is my list of 10 tips for putting your mind in a declutter mode space so that it's a little less painful to get rid of the stuff. And I've got them broken down into categories. So we're going to start with category number 1, which is cost is more than just money. When we have stuff in our environment that is not working for us, it is costing us. It's costing us space. It's taking up space in our homes. It's costing us whatever item could be there instead but isn't. It costs us mentally and emotionally. We look at things, we know they don't belong there, and that's going to start sort of scratching that little guilt button again and again and again. And you look at something, and eventually it just becomes unpleasant to look at the things that are in your environment that don't belong there. And, you know, when it becomes unpleasant enough, yeah, maybe we'll get rid of it. But it would be better if we could attack this before we are just feeling like we are being constantly reprimanded and criticized by our homes simply because we're having a little difficulty letting things go. So, yeah, cost is measured in more than just money. Never lose sight of that, because when we start to think of our stuff in terms of the amount of money it cost us, we are forgetting the amount of pain and discomfort it will cost us to keep something that is no longer working for us. So, are you keeping things just in case? I do that. I will freely admit. Remember, this is my list, so mostly these are the things I am guilty of. A few of them are things that I've picked up from what other people are guilty of, but most of it is my own guilt pouring out on you. Do you keep things just in case? Do you have something, you're not using it now, you haven't used it for a while, but hey, one of these days I might just need that, and I will be so glad I have it. I will be so sorry I let it go. We need to look at the fact that we are living in the here and now. We have no idea what is going to happen tomorrow, the next day, a year from now. Our circumstances are always changing, even if it seems like they're not. We've been in the same house for years. We've been in the same relationship for years. We've been at the same job for years. We've had the same friends for years. That looks very static. But life is just not that static. And if you haven't used anything in a while, yeah, maybe we should realize that just in case may never come. So yeah, it's probably not the best reason to keep something that is really not working for you. So, number 2. And remember, all of these are in the same category, so they're all interrelated. Yeah, we needed that stuff just in case. Well, here's the thing. You can buy it again. If you really, truly believe a time will come when you are just going to have that duck-shaped salt and pepper shaker, you can get another one. You really can. In the meantime, having all of this stuff is causing us discomfort. It's bringing chaos into our lives. It's very hard to feel good about yourself if you're not feeling good about your environment. And yeah, you can buy it again. Most of us, when we start looking at the stuff we are keeping a lot of foolish little things that never really cost a great deal in the first place, can easily be replaced if we ever need it. And it's there. We're keeping it just 'cause. You can buy it again. Absolutely, you can buy it again. Yes, it will cost you a little money. On the other hand, are you really prepared to put a price tag on your peace of mind? Is your peace of mind not worth whatever the little ducky shaped salt and pepper shakers might cost? You know, and yeah, I think it probably is, especially because that just in case moment may never happen. We may never have to buy it again, but we can. Anything, any possession you have can be replaced. Possibly not with exactly the same item, but almost certainly with something that will work just as well. So yeah, that's an excuse that kind of needs to get dusted out the door. So number 3, and remember this, we're still on our cost is more than just money. Number 3 on our list is we need to recognize that whatever this stuff is that is cluttering up our environment, no matter how valuable and expensive or whatever we think it is, it's already been paid for. That money is gone. Gone. It's not coming back. So what you have instead of whatever this item is, even if you think, oh, it's so expensive, you've already paid for it. You've already done without the money. And if the item is actually expensive, in other words, if it has a resale value, list it on eBay. Start a yard sale in your backyard. But accept the fact that it's paid for. It no longer represents a financial investment. The money is gone. That's a self-sabotaging way to think about our stuff. Oh, I paid so much money for this. Yeah, you did. Okay. We've all paid money for a lot of things, and those things are no longer in our lives. We paid a lot of money the last time we went out for dinner. Oh, that's long gone. You know, we've paid for things that have passed out of our lives many times. We will buy things in the future that will then at some future point pass out of our lives again. So when we look at something and say, but it was so expensive, maybe it was. Does it really matter how expensive it was? If it's not working for you, now it's a liability. It wasn't like a great investment in your future because it's no longer working for you. So it's not a productive way to think about it. And that is like an excuse, a rationalization, and one that we need to let go. And I am very guilty of this. I will look at something and say, but it's so valuable. You know, I think all my stuff is valuable. I love my stuff. Oh, this is my stuff. It's valuable. George Carlin again. And some of you, I'm sure, remember how George Carlin would go on about how we cherish our stuff, but we don't cherish other people's stuff. And of course, he had another word for that. Do you remember that? So, yes, we need to recognize that everyone thinks their own stuff is valuable. Do we think our neighbor's stuff is valuable? I don't. I do not think my neighbor's stuff is worth a grain of salt. My own stuff, very valuable. So we need to recognize this. that money is gone. No matter how much we paid for it, no matter how valuable we think it is tied up, this value is tied up in this object. So we are looking at that emotionally and not rationally. And therefore, it's an excuse and a justification, and it needs to go. Let's take a look at our next category. Now, as for our next category, it is gifts. And we need not to be slaves to sentiment. Keeping some things for the sake of sentiment is wonderful. I'm not inherently very sentimental, but I do love the fact that when I go over to my neighbor Jane's house, she has drawings that her mother made. Now, keep in mind, Jane is in her late 80s, so her mother and father have both been gone for a long time. She has a beautiful chair her father made. Hand-carved that thing. It's gorgeous. I'm going to go over one of these days and snap some pictures of her father's chair and share them with you. That is lovely. Also, I'll take some pictures of her mother's drawings. She keeps these out of sentiment. And that's fine. Hopefully she will one day be able to pass them down to her children. But there have to be limits on the amount of things you keep for the sake of sentiment. Somebody gives you a gift. It's the thought that counts. And we need to remember that and not say, but I can't get rid of it. It was a gift. Well, if it's not working for you, and you might not even actually like it all that much, it's time to let it go. Let someone else enjoy it. The fact is that the person who gave it to you didn't give it to you for it to be a burden to you. They gave it to you for you to enjoy it, for it to enhance the quality of your life. And if it's not doing that, they would probably get a good deal more satisfaction out of knowing that you had donated it, that you had passed it on to someone else who might, in fact, not only really want it, but really need it. It might be the difference between someone else having a coffee mug or not having a coffee mug. Because let's face it, there are a lot of people in economic hard times out there, and it could be that even the most simple thing that we don't value could be very, very important to someone else. So let's keep that in mind. And our second point in our don't be a slave to sentiment is, how valuable is it to you really? So here's the question I would say that you should ask yourself when you're saying, I must keep this for sentimental purposes. Would you track down the ex that you cannot stand if they accidentally took this item from you? Would you go after them to get this item back? And believe me, there is very little that would induce me to go track down my ex to get something back. If they ended up keeping something of mine, would I fight to get it back? I can tell you from personal experience, the only one thing I would fight to get back was, in fact, my grandmother's ashes. So if I don't value something to the same level that I value my grandmother's ashes, I'm not really all that attached to it. By the way, I did get my grandmother's ashes back. But that's the whole thing about despised exes. They will sometimes take something that is of no interest to them just because the two of you are on the outs and they may not be feeling very charitable toward you. So yes, would I fight for my grandmother's ashes back? Yes. Anything short of that? No. No. I would not track them down to ask for it back. That's mine. You fill in the blank any way you want to. Would you do XYZ to get it back? Would you pay $1,000 to get it back? If the answer is no, maybe you don't really value it all that much. Would you get on a plane and go to the other side of the country to retrieve it? But find your own formula for, if it hits this point, I do want it back. If it doesn't hit that point, then I guess I really don't have that much of an attachment to it. So that's the one that worked for me. But again, you fill in the blank on your own. We all have our own hot buttons. But that was one thing that helped me sort out the things I really, really have a profound emotional attachment to, and the things that I just think I can't live without. So our next category is what I am calling less is more. And this involves putting reasonable limits on the amount of stuff you will allow yourself to keep. You don't have to get rid of everything in your life. As I said, I couldn't. I could not live in a minimalist environment. That would make me very, very crazy. I need a certain amount of clutter just to feel at home in my space. I need stuff around me. Some people are very minimalist. They could live in these sterile white boxes. I've known people like that. I truly have. There's part of me that admires them because their environments are so clean and so organized, but I recognize the fact that that is not me. But I have to put limits on what I can keep. Now, they have to be reasonable limits. I'm not looking at this saying I get to keep everything. No, but I do get to keep some things and do it whatever way is most comfortable for you. I will be able to keep whatever I can fit into this giant box. I will be able to keep, say 3 little trinkets on each of my tables. Whatever works for you, but it has to be a reasonable limit. It can't be, I am going to keep whatever I can fit into my house. I know that's tempting because it's tempting for me. If I can fit it in, I get to keep it. It's not going to be, I'm going to be able to keep, 45 items on every table. No. Just create reasonable limits, and your environment will dictate those limits to you. Also, the way in which you use your environment, the way in which you move around your home. Do you have enough space to walk from one room to the next? By the way, if the answer to that is no, you really, really need to start decluttering, because not being able to walk from one room to the next is the mark of a hoarder house. So we need to make sure we're not hitting that point. But beyond that, we all have our ability to function within our space, and it's set differently for everyone. I love a certain amount of clutter, but one item past that tolerance level, and I'm going crazy. So for me, it is so black and white. For other people, it's a range. I can live with this much clutter or this much clutter, but by the time it hits that much clutter, I'm just not so comfy. For me, it's this much is okay, that much is awful. No in between. But again, we all have our range. So another clutter reduction strategy, and this is one of those that start small, to reduce all of your cluttery stuff by 10%. If your cluttery stuff are knickknacks in your living room, just do a quick count and reduce it by 10%. If you've got 70 knickknacks in your living room, 7 need to go. easy. Now, choosing which 7 is not going to be the easy part, but deciding how much needs to go can be very easy, especially if you follow a formula like reduce it by 10%. And if that's going to work for you, fantastic. Some people find that extremely helpful. I find it helpful when I'm going through my closets. If I go through the closet, getting rid of 10% works for me. Or getting rid of anything I haven't worn in 6 months. That works for me. And these are all little strategies that give us a sense of control over what we are eliminating. It makes us feel like we are choosing to move things out rather than having things torn away from us. And decluttering often feels like a process of having things ripped from our hands, which is never pleasant. Now, I've mentioned this before. My mother was almost a hoarder. I would say almost because she would let her children go into her house and scale back for her. And I think a true hoarder would resist that. And we found out why many years after we became concerned about her hoarding tendencies, when my baby sister went into my mother's closet and found a box of checks, bank checks, with my father's name on it. My father had died some years earlier. And for my mother, decluttering just brought back those memories of having her husband ripped away from her when she wasn't ready for it. So for her, getting rid of anything was ripping something out of her grasp. And it was extremely emotional. So, by the way, that was the thing. Finding that box of checks made it a lot easier for us to all understand why she did what she did. And it made it easier to avoid condemning her for it. Let me put it that way. We could relate. We all suffered that same loss, her husband, our father, but she's the one who began that sort of physical manifestation of it. So I would say I totally understand when someone feels like something is wrenched from them. Totally understand it. I saw my mother go through it. But we can eliminate that by taking control ourselves. We decide what goes, how much goes. I'm throwing out things like 10%. Maybe that will work for you. Maybe it won't. Maybe you'll choose another percentage. But that is what I find is a comfortable starting point. Maybe your comfortable starting point is 1%. If it is, so be it. Start with 1%. Just as long as you're moving forward in the process. That 1% will eventually turn into 2%. That 2% will turn into 4%, and so on. Eventually, you will be able to eliminate the clutter. So our next category is about the stuff we're keeping as opposed to the stuff we are decluttering. Because if we don't know what we're going to keep, it's hard to know what is appropriate to declutter. So here's the key to that. Keep what you use. When you're looking at decluttering your environment, eliminating the things that are not functioning for you, ask yourself, am I using this? Well, we need some strategies for figuring that out. Most of us, for the most part, know what we are and are not using. In some areas, that can be a little more difficult to sort out. We may look at something and say, I don't remember the last time I used that. Maybe we don't. So then we need to start coming up with systems to track usage. If you have something and you think maybe you can get rid of it, but you're not 100% sure, track the usage. There are a lot of strategies for doing this, and I have two that I want to share with you. And one of them is tape. Just colored tape, whatever colored Post-its even. It was right here on my desk. I have colored dots, and I have no idea why I picked these up in the first place. Who knows? Just adding to my clutter stash. But this is the sort of thing that I will use to keep track of usage. Just pop a colored dot on something and see how long it takes you to remove that colored dot. And if it's 6 months, well, then you know, even though you are using it, you may not be using it frequently enough to justify keeping it. Now, some things, to be fair, even if they are only used a couple of times a year, are worth keeping. My potato masher comes to mind. I do not make mashed potatoes every day, but I will make mashed potatoes or mashed sweet potatoes or mashed carrots or mashed whatever a couple of times a year. That alone is enough to justify keeping a potato masher. And given the fact that a potato masher sitting in a drawer does very little harm, causes very little inconvenience, I can justify keeping it, even though they're very inexpensive, because you can go to a thrift store and pick up a potato masher for 50 cents. They're not expensive items, especially if you get them secondhand. Still, do I need to have that? Yeah, I probably do. So, okay, come on. We got company. All right. Come here. Do you want to show them your boo-boo paw? Yes. No, he is not going to let me touch the boo-boo paw. So, as you can see, he is fine, even though he has a little boo-boo. He did decide to come and pay us a visit, so life is good. All right, where did I leave off? You can use things like colored tape to track your usage. For the most part, I would say we are fairly well aware of the things we use on a regular basis and fairly well aware of the things we don't. But if you have difficulty sorting it out, there are tricks, and little bits of colored tape are certainly one of them. Now, I have another trick, and this is one that does not work for me. I have tried it. Other people have great success with it, so I feel it's worth sharing. And that is in your closet, reversing your coat hangers. You wear something, when it goes back in the closet, put it on the hanger backwards, so the hook is facing toward you instead of away from you. That will let you know you've used that item recently. By the way, you can do it the other way around. Put everything in there backwards and then put it right side forward, whenever you use it. That will tell you. What I do instead, so like I said, that's one that's never worked for me, is I will organize my items, take something from the front. When it goes back in, it goes in to the back. And that works for me in a variety of ways, because it not only tells me what it is I'm wearing and how frequently I am wearing it, but it also ensures that everything in my closet is getting worn. Because when I come to an item, if I look at that and say, I don't feel like wearing this today, I take it out of the closet and put it on the back of the bathroom door. I have a hanging hook on the back of the bathroom door. Put it on the back of the bathroom door. And if I have not worn that item, if it's been sitting on the back of the bathroom door at the end of a week to 10 days, if I haven't worn it, then that is an item I have to look at and say, does that really belong in my wardrobe? Because if knowing that I'm supposed to be wearing that just to cycle through my clothing properly, if I still won't wear it for a week to 10 days, that's about the point where I have to say, maybe I don't really like it very much. Maybe there's a reason I'm not wearing it. And that's proven very effective for me. So, my final tip, and this is my very favorite. It's the one that has been the most effective for me, and I learned this trick when I was in my very early 20s. So, I have lived with this for 50 years. It is my 6 months, $10 rule. I watched a household organizing person on some daytime talk show. And remember, this is 50 years ago, so I'm sure you all remember the format of those daytime talk shows. And this guy said, if you haven't used it in 6 months and it cost you less than $10, you should get rid of it. Now, the fact is, $10 50 years ago was a decent amount of money. But not a fantastic amount of money. I would have to say, if I reframed that for 2025, I would have to say, maybe if you haven't used it in 6 months and it cost you less than $50, it should go. I've never reframed that. I'm still sticking with 6 months, $10. And am I hung up on the $10? No. If I haven't used it in 6 months and it was not what I consider to be exceedingly expensive, it's going to go because I'm not using it. And remember, going back to our first category, cost being more than just money, I can always buy it again if I need to. But that one rule has really stood me in good stead. Now, are there exceptions? Yes. And the exception I always cite is router bits. I have an electric router, and sometimes getting a very specific router bit would have taken me months, because this is in the pre-internet days. I might have had to write to a number of companies, get correspondence back, just to find out they didn't have it and they were referring me to another company. Oh yeah, finding the right router bit was an adventure back then. Could have taken me a great deal of time, and that router bit might have cost only $2 or $3. It's not all of my router bits. Every last one could fit in the palm of my hands, even to this day, and I've probably got at least a dozen router bits. That's how much space they take up. Am I willing to bend the rule for them? Yes. And there are probably other things you're willing to bend the rules for. And if I looked around my environment, I bet I've got a few other cheat areas. Maybe I would make an exception for this or that. But in general, that 6 months, $10 rule has done right by me. And that's why it's my favorite. And the reason that I've gone through all of this is, as I say, I'm downsizing, I'm decluttering. I needed this sort of refresher. I needed to look at this again. And I wanted to share it with you because I think we all need to revisit our motivations for downsizing, to work on the strategies that get our heads in the right place, so that we're seeing decluttering as positive, that the cleaner space we will end up with is worth whatever the temporary aggravation involved in decluttering is presenting for us. And so many times, the reason decluttering is painful is because we are listening to faulty input. We have so many emotional associations with our stuff that are not helping us. They're not serving our best interests. They're holding us back. So I figured I needed the refresher and I would share it with you all. So that's what I have for you today. I know we have gone well over time. I'm glad we had an opportunity to see Audie, and I'm glad you had a chance to see him so that you can see that even though he has the boo-boo paw, he is not miserable. He's not dying. He is just being pathetic, and he's just looking for extra attention and cuddle. But certainly, you have my assurance that if this does not clear up quickly, we are going to do something about it. But for the moment, I have been through so many little scratches and scrapes with this naughty boy that I'm not as frantic about it as I think he would like me to be. All right, thanks for being with us. I hope to see you all again tomorrow, and in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.